Now, the biggest story that we are tracking, will the US government shut down on October 1st? Everyone's asking this question. And if the Congress fails to pass federal spending bills, that is the question, as I say it again, on everyone's mind. If Congress fails to pass 12 key appropriation bills by September 30th, the last day of the US government fiscal year, the federal administration would come to a standstill and employees would not be paid for an unspecified period of time. A full or partial shutdown of the US government is undoubtedly going to have a major impact on the world's largest economy, ranging from lower economic output to delay in the release of key economic data. Now, consequently, the impact of the shutdown is estimated to be between $6 billion and $13.5 billion each week in total lost economic activity would leave a significant mark on the larger global economy. But shutdown is not a new phenomena for the federal government. In fact, it has shut down at least 14 times since 1981. Now, prior to the 1980s, the government did not abruptly shut down in the event of a legislative deadlock over federal funding. It was a legislative assistant named Ron McCluskey who rediscovered the then obscure 19th century Anti-Deficiency Act. The act, passed in 1870, restricts the federal government from operating in the absence of Congress-backed funding. Now, reports suggest that McCluskey alerted Democrat Congresswoman Gladys Noon Spellman about the provision. Now, Spellman wrote to then Comptroller General for an opinion, but the General did not favor a shutdown. She then asked for a second opinion from the Justice Department. On April 25, 1980, then Attorney General Benjamin responded, "Federal agencies may incur no obligations that cannot lawfully be funded under prior congressional appropriations." 5 days later, on May 1st, 1980, the US federal government shut down for one full day. It affected the Federal Trade Commission, FTC, after the Congress allowed the funding bill to lapse. Now, this happened amid a tussle between the Congress and the Carter-led White House over a bill that would have curtailed the investigation powers of the FTC. On May 1st, 1,600 employees of the FTC were furloughed. That's a term used in the US to mean employees who are on payrolls but cannot work. The shutdown ended that evening after both houses of the Congress approved an extension of funding. Now, in March 1981, the US Government Accountability Office claimed that the shutdown led to a loss of $700,000 to the exchequer. That's over $2 million when adjusted for inflation in 2022. Now, to talk more about this, we are now joined by Jayant Krishna, Senior Fellow at CSI's Washington, D.C., Distinguished Fellow and founding CEO of Fast India, former Group CEO, UKIBC, and also previously led by initiatives of the Prime Minister's Skill India Mission as CEO and Executive Director and Chief Operating Officer, NSDC. Welcome to the broadcast, Mr. Krishna.
A pleasure.
So, with the shutdown, US shutdown looming, and all of us are asking the same question, what do you think will be the impact of the possible shutdown on the US economy and the larger world?
So actually, we all know, some hardliner Republicans, they refuse to support, what we call as the must-pass funding legislation. Unless massive spending cuts are made, and that is what it has led to this kind of a deadlock and probably leading to a federal government shutdown, unless, sanity prevails and something it is averted, And this is not the first time. It has 4 times it has happened in a decade. And if it happens, repercussions are widespread for the US government, for the US economy, delivery of, several welfare schemes would be hit. The welfare checks delivery will be affected. Operations of courts, museums, national parks, that would be affected. Publishing of even the national economic data may be affected, So hundreds and thousands of federal workers would be forced to leave work without pay. or if they are, allowed to work, there'll be uncertainty about them being paid for this. See, last time when it had happened, it had affected almost 800,000 workers, and today they are estimated to be almost 4 million federal workers. I have no idea how many of them will be affected, but a substantive, significant proportion of them are going to be affected. I don't think essential services would be affected. Even the passport and visa services are unlikely to be affected. But many, for example, if you look at the children and women, who need supplementary nutrition, their total to about 7 million. They are likely to be affected. The food assistance program will be affected. There could be potential delays in Medicare and Social Security services. See, let's understand, majority of Americans, they receive some or the other benefit from the US government, So all that is likely to be affected, for example, look at even the aviation sector, right? While some may say that there is no direct impact, but, after a lot of efforts, the disruption in the air travel was, ironed out, and, this may again go off track, But I see the foreign offices of US government could continue to work till the time the funds last, I think so. These are many things, which are going to take a hit. But I think first and foremost, let's look at the overall US financial outlook. That itself gets, some kind of a beating, And, Moody's have said, and some other people have also said that probably if it continues for long, the credit rating of US, which means the credit worthiness of US federal government may also go down, which would mean that to raise more funds, they'll have to, they'll go through more difficulties and perhaps pay higher rate of interest, So I think, this idling or slowdown of programs, government-funded programs, is not a good thing for the country at all. Some of the infrastructure delays would happen. The upgradation programs would get delayed.
Sure. So I think, I really want to also put in something there. So first the US debt ceiling crisis, and now this. So clearly, don't you think that there has to be some measures that US will have to take in order to avoid such a scenario in the future?
See, at a high level, if you look at, if you expect that, brinkmanship would prevail and political polarization would go away, I think we'll be living in a fool's paradise. I don't see it, given the position of the two major political parties in the US, that's unlikely to happen. But something which I feel can work is something called an automatic CR, a CR standing for continuing resolution. So government could stay on the course and keep spending only with minor tweaks if they are able to enact an automatic CR resolution. It's not the first time that they would do that. Actually, President Obama, and if memory doesn't fail me, he did that in 2013. But he didn't do it across the board. He did it for the military, for the army, and so the bill, if I remember correctly, used to be called the Pay Our Military Act, and that was enacted. So it was some kind of an automatic CR, which is the automatic continuing resolution, which was enacted for military, and it was, I understand, it remained active for 1 year, and then after that, it ceased to be active. So I think similar thing could be done, across the board, perhaps to prevent this kind of a thing, because it's happening far too frequently, 4 times in a decade. So I think, I would ideally would expect that, both major parties should work towards political polarization to get reduced, but I don't see that happening anytime near future.
But for now we're all kind of looking forward, or if I may say, speculating to what could possibly happen on the 1st of October. Thank you so much for all those insights, Mr. Krishna.